Division III basketball. You've logged on to the right place.
Welcome to the big show.
Whereas on the men's side, I think they overloaded two of the brackets, and as a result, I think we're not going to get a good Final Four in the sense of who everyone really would like to see there.
The system is a mess, guys, but I think that's neither here nor there.
The next 3 hours, we'll cover it all.
We don't have the time to move pieces because conferences are playing their title games on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, for God's sake.
I'll tell you what, I'll support them. You guys are going to get to the Sweet 16 and get annihilated by Stevens Point.
With regional reports.
We've talked a lot about the fact on the men's side that there's not a lot of dominant teams, and the flip side of that is that you have a lot of parity. It makes the conference races exciting.
And interviews with coaches.
Hey, it's great to be on Hoopsville. I tell you, it's that time of the year.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
This D3 basketball is the greatest. The players, they play because they love it. They're fun. The teams are playing. You go to these other campuses. It's where it's at.
And we knew that the ODAC competition was going to be very tough. We knew that each coach had done their job with recruiting. And there were so many young teams that we just knew that each and every night when we played an ODAC contest that we had our work cut out for us.
We'll talk about who's on top.
And the CCRW is much like the Wisconsin League, the WIAC, in that, I mean, really, it's a cliche, but it's true. On any night, anyone can beat you.
Those surprises.
Every game counts, especially
Play
the
your
regional
season.
games. Yeah.
Don't lose to a bad team.
Well, and don't lose your conference tournament.
And who's making news in Division III.
We got an awful tough league, and we have some tough games this week, but we're still tied for first place in our league in the loss column.
And as you point out, they're not a reliable team in the NCAA tournament. They've proven it year in and year out that you can't count.
You can even join in and chat with us.
I mean, this lower right-hand bracket is loaded.
This bracket is ridiculous. I mean, you could take this could be a Final Four bracket.
You want to play that Thursday game because you have not won an NCAA tournament game. You got to go out there and show yourselves that you can actually do it.
So sit back and relax, and let's talk D3 hoops.
We talked before about Hope Calvin being far and away the #1 rivalry in Division III basketball. You can't dispute it.
I think the WIAC always deserves 2 teams in the poll for sure, and probably 3.
Well, one, I think they got the easiest run to a possible Final Four. They don't have a lot of challenges on the way.
There were 3 teams in that region that deserved first-round byes.
Exactly.
And only 2 could get them.
Now it's time for Hoopsville.
Great show. Keep this up. This is a good thing for D3, and I will enjoy listening to the rest of the show.
Let's get it started in here. Everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started.
Here's your host, Dave McHugh.
Oh, yeah. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, there goes the mic. Bit of a false start tonight. Terribly sorry about that, everybody. Terribly sorry. Hope you are well. Welcome into Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. There we are. How come? Oh, there's a light missing. Ta-da! Crazy weekend, and we're ready for the Final Fours. I am Dave McHugh alongside Chris Taher, as you can see, already manning the phones as we get our first guest ready to hit the air. Hope you are enjoying the show. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry for the false start this evening. A little bit of a technical mistake on my part. Forgot to plug something in after the trip to F&M this weekend to watch the Final Four, or the sectional championships, and see who was coming out of there to the Final Four. Heck of a set of games at Franklin and Marshall. I know there were some great games across the country. We'll certainly have plenty of time to talk about those. Coming up tonight in just a matter of minutes, actually seconds, Maya Smith from Illinois Wesleyan will be joining us. Ron Rose will return to the show just a week after upsetting Hope, and talking to him about that. We'll talk to him about getting past Worcester and Wittenberg to get to their 5th Final Four in the Salem era. We'll talk to both coaches about that back-to-back. And then we will go to the Northeast and talk to G.P. Gromacki, someone we haven't talked to on the show, mainly because we had talked to him out in Vegas, and wanted to give plenty of others their due. But Amherst on a 51-game winning streak, 31 this year, having won the national championship, heading back to the Final Four. We'll talk to him. And then Jamie Carricker from MIT will join us. Fascinating story from him, not only about what he does, but about the fact that MIT is to the Final Four. We'll talk to him about that. Gordon Mann maybe will be on the show, trying to line him up, but Pat Coleman will certainly join us as well. Again, usual, if you want to contact us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Your AOLIM is hoopsville2000, and I just realized that we are not signed in, so as we chat about that, we'll sign into the account. And there we are. Also, chat in the chat room alongside the show. If you are on Ustream, it should be to your right. I know there's a few people in there now, and we appreciate that. I will be logged in momentarily. And, of course, there's also Twitter, at D3Hoopsville, or Hoopsville, at D3Hoopsville, or hashtag Hoopsville. Of course, we're also on Facebook. That's where you can get a lot of the news on the show and on archives. Facebook.com/Hoopsville. That's the way you can interact with us, and we're going to waste a little time because I know our first guest is eager and waiting to be on the show. And we welcome in Maya Smith from Illinois Wesleyan. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, and congratulations on your second consecutive trip to the championship weekend.
We appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Certainly impressive to say the least. I think last year a lot of teams expected you to be, or a lot of people expected the Titans to be there. Being at home, I know it was the goal. This year it's at Holland, and I think looking at a lot of things, there were teams like Carthage and others that we could see tripping up the Titans possibly on a trip, in a return trip. In turn, you decide to turn the tables on Carthage, win the game at Mount Union after a thrilling victory against Mount Union on Friday night. Tell us about the weekend.
Well, the weekend was a lot of fun. First of all, we just had a tremendous time, and the girls were really excited to have a special opportunity to continue to play. Our theory was we wanted to continue to play in order to practice on Tuesday, and we wanted to continue to play so we could hang a banner in the gym again. So it was just a great and fun weekend, and the game against Mount Union was an incredible atmosphere. I'll tell you what, they have got an incredible support system there. Their fans came out in full force. It was a packed gymnasium and just a great atmosphere to play in, and really great teams going at each other. And then, of course, there's no love lost between us and Carthage. We wanted that game. We wanted to make sure we stood clear as to who was the better team.
To the Friday game, I saw how it ended. An unfortunate missed free throw on one end leads to an effort down the other end, and you get the layup to fall plus a foul, though the foul was unnecessary, or the free throw was unnecessary because it goes on to a win. I haven't looked at the video carefully enough, but there was talk that you may have been trying to call timeout.
Absolutely. We talked about the fact that we didn't have timeouts and we weren't going to call one. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but anyway, we got back down where we needed to be and didn't make the call, so it was good.
Yeah, I was going to say, good thing the referees did not see you, because obviously that's the scenario you didn't want to be put in. But tell us just a little bit. I mean, Mount Union's a darn good basketball team. What did you have going in, mentality wise, to make sure to try and trip up the Purple Raiders?
Well, we knew that they were quick, but I don't think that you can actually see how quick they are on film. And so when we got into the game, we didn't realize that they had strength plus quickness, and that was kind of the iffy part of the game that made it difficult for us. We didn't match up exceptionally well, where we thought we were bigger and stronger and thought maybe they might be a little bit quicker, but that we could match their speed. That wasn't exactly happening. So we used a different route. We picked our moments to utilize our run and jump press, and I thought that helped us out quite a bit.
Certainly played well against Mount Union, who finished the season 28-2, led by Olivia Lett with 26 points. She also had 4 rebounds, 13 points from Melissa Gardner, and then 8 from Britt Hasselbring, and certainly contributions from others. Hasselbring was also your leading rebounder with 6, got you the 70 points. Of course, you gave up 20 to Corey Wheaton, and Rosa LaMattina got 16, so certainly they were doing their damage, but it looked like you kind of held the rest of the team in check.
Yeah, I think they were a 3+ player team that scored big, and they were the three that tended to do the most offensive work. So that was our focus. And I'm telling you, there were times when they hit big shots where I know we were in position and we were guarding them, and they just hit the big shots. All three of those kids are phenomenal shooters, and they're quick release and just pure shooters. So there are a couple times they were defended and they went in. A couple times we left them open.
Of course, then the next game, Saturday, as you mentioned, conference rival Carthage, and I know that made it even more sweet. But you go in there, again leads you with 24 points this time. Blates gets you 12, 11 from Gardner, and then a whole mess of contributions after that. But Let should point out also 10 rebounds, 9 of them on the defensive side of things, playing 39 minutes, I think, for the weekend. She played all but 4 minutes of potential basketball. Clearly, Let is your leader, but you've got plenty of other weapons.
I really like this team. This is a team that, last year we were known more for our finesse. We could really stroke the outside jumper. This team, I think, we are more known for how hard we can work, and it's a little bit more of a physical grind. It's not always pretty with this team, but it's definitely a great work ethic to watch. And Olivia she's a phenomenal athlete. And I tell you, out of those 9 rebounds that she had that were on the defensive end, I'm guessing that 4 or 5 were with one hand because it was a battle on the boards. Both teams really went to the glass really hard.
14 seasons coaching, obviously pretty solid 26-5 this season. What did you learn from last year's Final Four, which you hosted and were in, that can maybe benefit you this time around when you head to Holland and hopefully try and win that elusive title?
Well, one of the things is something that you really can't control, and that's to be full strength. You don't want any injuries. And last year in the Final Four, we were without Karen Solari,
right,
who's a starter this year, and that really hurt our chances last year. She is that boost of energy that comes off the bench and makes us tougher. We never lost ground when Karen came onto the floor in the game, and we didn't have that last year, so that kind of hurt us. But I think what we take going into the tournament is that it's anybody's game to win. It doesn't matter where you're ranked. It doesn't matter how you've been put in the top 25 all season long.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been in it, been out of it, back in, I think it just simply matters that it's a game. You've got to go out and play it, and our kids know that. And they know that they got to value possessions, and costly mistakes in a tournament like this are going to not get you a victory.
Your reward will be St. Thomas, who took out Calvin in overtime in Chicago. Calvin had defeated the previously undefeated Chicago team rather handily, 68-50, before losing to St. Thomas in overtime. I know it's only 1 day removed, but what do you know about St. Thomas? What have you gotten for reports? What are you expecting for that game on Friday night in Holland?
We're about as blind as you can possibly be going into this game. All I was able to see and what I heard from some of our parents who had watched the last part of the game online is that they're a little bit big and that they try to go inside and that they shoot the ball effectively. So that's all I know at this point. We've taken a look at their statistics and their roster, of course, but we won't have any film arrive until Tuesday, so that'll be our first look.
You have 4 seniors on this squad, a whole mess of sophomores and a couple juniors behind it. Clearly experience helps. Clearly senior leadership helps. It seems, by looking on paper, that you have a team that, while you will lose certainly key parts to it after this weekend in Olivia Lett and others, you're getting experience for these younger players that can certainly probably benefit you in the years to come.
Absolutely, and I think even more than just the experience, their appetite is whet. I mean, they've now been into they've been a part, the sophomore group has been a part of 2, or will be a part of 2 Final Fours. So they're awfully excited, and of course, they're already talking about continuing the tradition, and we haven't even gotten to the Final Four games yet. So that's very encouraging for me to know that they're that anxious to continue to perform at such a high level. And getting back to the Final Four, some people anticipated it, some didn't. For these kids, it feels a little routine. Like, I don't know where their minds would be right now if we weren't going. So I really throw my hat to them. They are a group of incredible kids who have great expectations for themselves.
Started the season 3-0 3-4 with losses to Whitewater, DePauw, Chicago, and Stevens Point, all teams that made the NCAA tournament. And then you went off and rattled 11 straight victories off before losing to Wheaton, and then rolled off 12 straight. You now have 5, I believe, consecutive CCIW championships, and according to Bob Quillman, the first CCIW men or woman to do that on either side of the bracket. But you have this incredible finish to the season. I want to go back to the fact that you started 3-4, had a pretty public battle with cancer early on, right before the season started. How much has not only the start of the season personally, start of the season team-wise, helped you as a program and helped you as a person to now, one loss in the last 4 games?
Well, I tell you, a lot of people probably don't realize that our schedule when we built it and through the RPI was the second most difficult schedule in the country. So we knew we were putting ourselves out there. We knew we could take some bumps and some bruises, and we did. We actually did that without Karen Solari for the early part of the season.
Right.
And Shelby Jackson, who's been off the bench for us and done a tremendous job as a sophomore, had mono and was trying to play through that. We didn't know that she had mono, but she was playing that way. So we weren't really full force. And I think right now we're just full force. I like the things that the kids are doing. And it just, all of that preseason stuff just absolutely made us tougher. You got to play the best, I think, in order to try to be the best. And that was our route the entire time.
Was there a sense of, you had a distraction in preseason that maybe made things like basketball a little less important and thus maybe took the pressure off?
I don't know that basketball will ever be less important. Certainly my battle with cancer was a shock. But I have to tell you, the support system that I have here at Wesleyan from our fans and from the girls and from their parents and their families, it's just, in the community, it has been such a blessing, and it is a motivator for me. If it weren't for my kids, it would be hard to get up some mornings, but I knew they were here. We both needed each other, and it's a winning combination for sure.
Quickly, before we let you go, we should note that you have not played at home since defeating Carthage 68-67 to win the CCIW title. You've been on the road for the entire NCAA tournament, and obviously will be back on the road up in Holland, Michigan at Hope in the championship weekend coming up. But how have the fans supported you guys? I know there was a contingent that went to Worcester for the men. What was the contingent like for the women, and how has the support been back on campus?
Well, the support is phenomenal. We're actually on break, but our community they are so supportive of both the men's and the women's program. And there are a lot of our fans out there that are torn. They don't know which way to go. In fact, over the past weekend, they said, well, if one team doesn't win, they're going to go, and the other team does, they're going to go see the other team play on Saturday night.
30 minutes away.
Yeah, we really have phenomenal fan support, and the Green Monsters will rise again, and we had a pretty good crowd, I thought, at our game, and I know the men had a good crowd, and Hope's not that far away. I know the men are having to fly, but hopefully we'll draw some of those people, and since they're not going to fly out maybe to see the men play, maybe they'll drive up to Hope and watch us.
And I believe first time that both men's and women's teams for Illinois Wesleyan will be playing in championship weekend, and to top that off, the women's track and field team for Illinois Wesleyan is competing in the NCAA tournament coming up this week as well. So just a little bit busy there in Illinois, in Bloomington.
It's a great place to be a Titan, that's for sure.
There you go. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. Good luck in Holland. I will bestow the responsibilities of broadcasting and keeping up with you to Pat Coleman, who will be in Holland next weekend. But good luck. We certainly wish you the best. And as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those listening?
I'm just going to say, how about I do this? For all the women out there, make sure you self-exam.
Very well done.
We'll twist it a little bit. All right. We'll twist it a little bit, go it the other way.
No, that's a perfect shout-out. I think that's more important than anything else that can be said. So thank you very much. Good luck, and we'll keep an eye on you and hopefully see a championship. Though it's a tough road, we expect the best out of the Titans.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much for having us on the air. We appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.
Maya Smith joining us from the number 16th ranked Illinois Wesleyan. bet those Titans are going to rise in those rankings for sure. Again, winners of 12 straight, last lost to Wheaton, and winners of 11 straight before that. Coming up here, we're going to actually stay on the air. Chris is going to do his handiwork and get the next Illinois Wesleyan coach back on the air. If you remember, we actually had him on last Sunday as well, Ron Rose. But we got to keep talking to them because they keep upsetting teams. And if you think about it, and I loved how someone pointed this out, and it's a good fact, but I'll add to it. Their first win against Stevens Point, a multi-champion team, though certainly injured, still a tough team. They then beat the number one team in the country and hand them their first Division III loss of the season in Hope. That was all last weekend. This weekend, they defeat the second winningest program in NCAA Division III history in Worcester, and then go beat the winningest NCAA program in Division III history, and the one who's been to the most NCAA tournaments in history in Division III in Wittenberg. What in the world can the men's team do to top that? Well, their reward will be the simple fact that they will have to take on an enigma in Cabrini, and I say enigma because no one knows what to make of them. I've certainly seen them, but even I don't know how this matchup's going to go. Cabrini, a very guard-orientated squad, kind of like a Richard Stockton back in the days, a Virginia Wesleyan-type squad, though Virginia Wesleyan certainly has a little bit more height inside, but teams that you may remember at the Final Four who were not that prototypical Midwest team that many teams people are familiar with. Cabrini's going to come in with that angle, and Illinois Wesleyan on the men's side is going to have to deal with that, whereas it's Whitewater versus MIT, maybe a little bit more of a traditional setup. We'll see how we get that take. We'll talk to Ron Rose here just momentarily. Again, you can interact with us by tweeting us at D3Hoopsville. That's D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. If you have any questions, we'd be certainly happy to try and answer those questions. Also, don't forget, coming up, Jamie Carricker from MIT will be joining us. Chris, I'm assuming we're having a little bit of a delay.
We are right now, but we'll get Coach Rose on, I'm sure, at some point tonight. Yep.
Very good. Then we will take a break, and Ron Rose will join us as soon as possible. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back right after this.
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA embossed, right? Yeah.
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays?
Yes. Yes.
NCAA women's college basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA women's college basketball.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Forgive me, you're not going to see my lovely face here for just a moment as I fix something in the system. But thank you for joining us here on the show. Again, you can tweet us by going to @D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. We'll try and answer your questions there. I just realized I forgot to log into the chat room. So let's do that before I forget it for the umpteenth time. That way, if you have any questions, I can try and answer them there. You hear me furiously typing away. I'm now in there, and I know there's a few there. Sorry if I missed your questions earlier. Please feel free to repost your questions in the chat room. The chat room, by the way, is for any of you who are actually watching us on our actual Ustream page versus like on d3hoopsville.com or d3hoops.com where the page is embedded. There's actually a chat room in the Twitter page. So that's where we mean by chat room. You can also join us, like I said, on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. We're also via email, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Or AOLIM, hoopsville2000. Quite a few of you have used that in recent weeks. We certainly appreciate that as well, and we certainly will keep it going. Let's go back to the Hoopsville hotline, and joining us on the line is women's basketball coach G.P. Gromacki, which I've now realized I misspelled on the graphic. I apologize. For the number 1 Amherst women's basketball team. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
I appreciate you joining us on the show. We didn't get a chance to really talk to you this season because we had chatted with you at Las Vegas, I should say. So we decided to not hound you throughout the year, but well, the time's arrived. We got no other opportunities to chat with you before a game, and so here it is, and congratulations on making yet another championship weekend.
Yes, yeah, thank you again. It's always great to talk with you, so I'm glad we had the time in Vegas, so I appreciated that.
Well, I'm going to say you guys were the best dressed. Nothing against anybody else, but the unique Amherst Las Vegas shirts for the coaching staff was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that's what this is about. And we're glad you liked them and really didn't make fun of them, so we weren't quite sure. But
I loved them.
We pulled it off.
I loved them. I think they were better than what we were wearing, and we were wearing our nice D3 Sports logo polos, and that's something I went and got. So I liked it personally. Hey, heck of a run here. 51 games straight, I believe. 31 straight this season. Obviously, 31-0. Excuse me. Going back to another championship weekend, the defending champs. Obviously, pressure on to pull this off, but at the same time, playing pretty good basketball, and so far, and I realize I say this trepidatiously, look unstoppable.
Well, I'd like to say we are, but we've had some tough games this season, and played some great competition. I would say we are peaking at the right time, so I'm happy with that. But unstoppable, I don't know about that. Anybody can be beaten on a given night.
Well, certainly, this previous weekend at home, you beat York 79-55. On Friday night, you beat Emmanuel 84-61 to earn your trip. Before that, Babson on the previous Saturday was a 61-48 victory, and St. Joseph's Brooklyn 84-30. The last time I find a game that I would call close might have been Tufts at 48-31 back at the beginning of February. You certainly had a battle on your hands with Colby back in January 21st. It was a 51-50 ball game, and Bowdoin took you to 63-59. Otherwise, you're winning by double figures and by long double figures. It's not even, it's 12, it's 15, it's 17, it's 20. How do you keep the team motivated in the sense that you are dominating games in that manner?
Yeah, we're just taking the task at hand. Who's our opponent tonight? What can we do to be successful against them, and how can we play? And that's really what we're looking at. Each night it's a different team, it's a different challenge, and that's really what we're focused on.
On Friday, Brittany Hicks poured in 26 points, grabbed 13 boards. You also got 10 points out of Aja Walfer. I'm sorry. That was York. My bad. Misreading the box score. 20 points, I should say, to Carolyn Stedman. I should have recognized the names were wrong. 18 points out of Lemma Tonga McCormick. 17 points out of Marcia Vaught. You got 9 rebounds out of Fiorentino. 8 rebounds out of McCormick. 6 rebounds out of Renner. You certainly get a wide variety there. You then go to the Emmanuel game, and it's McCormick with 19, 17 from Stedman, 14 from Robertson, 11 from Renner. Those are your 4 in double figures with 10 rebounds from Robertson. You get it everywhere, and you get it in different games. I realize it's not something you expect going in, but how do you decide to ride a hot hand?
Well, I mean, we have great distributors, so they will find the hot hand without me telling them, which is great. We have a lot of weapons, so it has been, if you look at, our leading scorers for each game and leading rebounders, it's been pretty spread out. But right now, again, we've got a group of people that are really scoring well, and it's hard to pick out one to go to or one to stop.
Look at the statistics. Stedman's getting you about 14 points a game. Robertson, a freshman, is getting you 11.5 plus 7.5 plus rebounds a game. McCormick's getting you 11.3 and 5.6. Fiorentino's 9.2 and 6.2. Plus, she can certainly handle the ball and has 55 steals on the season. Not to forget Finucane either or Voigt, Renner, Hardy, Crowley. They all get big minutes. You still get Holness and Rizzo and a bunch of others who still play. It's wide diversity. I saw it in Vegas where you have lots of different options. I know Robertson has been a surprise this year as a freshman, but you seem to really still have that great senior leadership in players like McCormick as well.
Oh, definitely. The seniors have been tremendous for us for 4 years. And, I've learned throughout the years, and now they provide great leadership. And but we have had, a freshman come through big for us in many games, and, she does a lot. And, we're lucky to have her.
I'm just quickly scrolling through this. This senior class, I am quickly doing the math, has lost a total of 6 games in their careers. 4 of them coming in their freshman year. They don't lose. You go into this weekend, probably the favorite, though we'll talk about George Fox in a second. You've got a chance at another title, your 4th straight Final Four weekend. Do they have something about them that that has clicked as a unit? Is it something that will ever be able to transfer to another unit?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be difficult to find a group like this, but we're always trying to. They just, they care about each other. They care about their teammates, and they just, they hate to lose, that no matter what it is. So, it seems like they just find a way. And again, we're very fortunate to have a group like that.
Your reward is another undefeated team in George Fox, who handed Mary Washington their lone loss of the season and rather easily at Fredericksburg. You will take them on in the semifinals. Certainly, I would say nothing against the other matchup between St. Thomas and Illinois Wesleyan, but everyone's going to be focused on Amherst versus George Fox. I know it's only been practically 24 hours, less than. What do you know about George Fox? What have you learned about them this season? Obviously, you have familiarity with them in the past, but what do you know about them this year? And obviously, tapes won't arrive until Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have looked at them a little bit. They are, a tremendous team with also a lot of weapons. And I think any team that's left in the Final Four, has multiple options. And they definitely have an inside-outside game. They have a great scorer in Keisha Gordon. They're tough. They mix it up, play some zones, some man. So, they're the real deal.
And, I just wanted to quickly go back to the season stats because something that jumped out at me that I forgot to mention was just the dominating performance. You're averaging 75 points a game. You're giving up as a defense 46. You're only allowing your opponents to shoot 29% from the floor, 22% from beyond the arc, and you're out-rebounding them by more than 12, and we haven't even gotten to the assist to turnover ratio, which you outnumber by 100, yet you're forcing twice as many turnovers as assists for your opponents. Defensively, your team just looks stout.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've stressed from day one, and they've really bought into what we're doing on defense, and it's really been kind of the core of our team, which leads to some more offense.
We talk about a lot of the blowouts. Bowdoin 63-59 was close, and Colby 51-50 on back-to-back nights. What did you take from that weekend to help you the rest of the season?
Yeah, those two teams are great teams. Bowdoin was in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
And Colby is tough, and it's tough up in Maine. But we definitely take a lot from those games, and we had to do everything we could to pull out wins. we enjoy playing great teams, and both of them are.
Is it one of those scenarios where that weekend it's kind of like, hey, it's a wake-up call? Even though it wasn't a loss, was it a wake-up call to your team to go, hey, we really need to, stay on top of things here?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with that week is we played Kane on that Tuesday.
Right.
So with those 3 games and those 3 teams, you're not going to find many better teams out there. And I don't know if it's a wake-up call, but it showed us that you have to be ready every night. These teams are coming after you. They are great teams, and you have to play well. And we did what we needed to do to pull out the wins, and it's something I think we've carried with us all season long.
I talked to Maya Smith from Illinois Wesleyan just prior to talking to you, and Illinois Wesleyan has 3 teams in the NCAA championships this week: men's and women's basketball at their respective Final Fours. Obviously Holland for you, and then the women's track and field team. On the other hand, the Amherst, you had the men, the women, and you had hockey, men's hockey, all playing at the same time. I know it was busy at Amherst. What's the atmosphere been like?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, it's a school that cares about its athletics, and obviously its academics, but our fall sports really got us going too. Football went undefeated.
Yep.
We had men's and women's soccer going far, field hockey, cross country, you name it, and then it just carried over the winter with women's hockey, men's ice hockey, and obviously men's basketball and us. So it's been a tremendous year.
What was it like last weekend? You get the chance to host, thanks to the men giving the men's team a 1-game bye. It's in the rule book. It's allowed to happen, so we hadn't seen it in a long time as the men's teams and women's teams lose more and more of these byes, and obviously there's none left on the women's side. But what was it like last weekend to have both teams hosting on Saturday in games that could mean moving on to the Sweet 16? And by the way, the hockey team was battling for a conference title.
Right, yeah, it was jam-packed with fans and, opposing teams, and it was really busy. But, we were fortunate that the men got the bye, and it really helped us out. But, our men's coach, Dave Hickson's a big supporter of our program. And, everything worked out. And, again, we were very fortunate that was allowed to happen.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. I know you got plenty of other things to do, and obviously got to get ready for that trip to Holland and break tapes down, et cetera. But thanks for taking the time to join us tonight. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who are listening?
It's always a pleasure talking with you, Dave, and for all you guys do for Division III athletics. It's great just to be part of it, and you really kind of pump up our sport and do a lot. I'm very appreciative of what you guys do.
Well, thank you, Coach. Good luck this weekend. 51 straight is certainly impressive, to say the least. A second title would be even more impressive, but obviously you got to take care of George Fox on Friday, and that is going to be what looks like going to be a great game. So good luck on Friday and this weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing how the Lord Jeffs do.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye.
GP Gromacki from Amherst. By the way, if you do get a chance to go back and look at some pictures of their coaching outfits from Vegas, awesome shirts. Very, very cool idea. One game we didn't bring up there was they played WPI, and I believe at the 10-minute mark it was about a 5-point game. Amherst went on to win by 70. And I will tell you now, they were not running up the score at all. We're going to take a very quick break. On the other side, I believe we'll have Coach Ron Rose joining us. Sounded like he was calling us right then during the show. So we're going to take a break and give him a chance to get on the line. Also coming up, MIT's junior guard Jamie Carricker will join us on the phone. We'll also hear from Pat Coleman and maybe even Gordon Mann. We'll see if we can get everybody lined up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back after this.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
Amber Alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old, suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberAlerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.D3Football.com.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA and boss, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays?
Yes. Yes.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, broadcasting out of the Hoopsville studios. Hope you're all enjoying the show. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us on the chat room. That is alongside if you're on our Ustream page. And I know there's people in there like a particular MIT fan. And there's others. If you're a guest, it's free to log in and ask us questions if you so choose. If you're watching us any other way, again, email address, AOLIM. There is also Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. And we do use our Facebook account, but mainly to post archives. If there's any questions there, I'll try and jump over there and double check, see if we can answer some questions, because I have seen them come up on occasions and certainly don't want to miss those. So that's how you get a hold of us. I hope it all made sense to you. And we will go on from there. Now let's go back to the Illinois Wesleyan story, as it were. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Coach Ron Rose. And, Coach, it's been a long time since you and I have gotten a chance to chat. Thank you for coming back to the show. What's it been? Years, months, maybe days?
Maybe days. Hey, if talking to you is our good luck, let's talk every day.
Oh, okay. Well, then good luck this weekend. I will see you in Salem, and we'll try and make arrangements for that conversation.
That's great.
First and foremost, last weekend we talked about the fact that you beat not only a Stevens Point squad that certainly was a little banged up, but comes out of the WIAC and they've won a couple championships. No strangers to this procedure. You then beat a Hope squad at their own gym, which even you said was a great atmosphere, in double overtime to knock off the number 1 team in the country and hand them their first Division III loss. Nothing against you, but I thought you could maybe win one game this weekend, but I didn't know how Zimmer and the rest of the team would fare. And then I figured my guess was Wittenberg would come out of that because I think things favorably looked that way. You have a tough battle against Worcester, and I'll talk more about that later, and then you just dismantled Wittenberg.
It was, it was another good weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the stage today when it's sinking in and you're just kind of shaking your head a little bit. But, I think it's, there's certainly good fortune involved at this time of year.
Yeah.
And part of our good fortune is right now, this weekend, we've been as healthy as we've been in a while. Jordan Zimmer has been battling a foot injury, but it's feeling better than it's felt. John Kosniewski's battled a bad back. It felt pretty good this weekend, and we played well. It's amazing that when the shots go in, offense looks better, and I thought we guarded really well, but we probably caught the Wittenberg game probably caught them on a night where they didn't shoot it as well as they're accustomed to. But right now we're playing clearly the best basketball we have all year, and we're playing with so much confidence. I mean, I'm fortunate to have 4 senior perimeter players that are really playing with a lot of purpose right now.
The one thing I know going into the weekend I was nervous about was Zimmer. Playing with clearly a badly injured foot. And I thought that could be the undoing of the Titans, and nothing against it, but you lose a key cog like that at this time of year, and it's tough to find other players to step up. But clearly other players are stepping up, and clearly this team is clicking on a different set of cylinders than maybe you were earlier in the season. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, certainly Jordan Zimmer is a critical component to our team. He's a young man that distorts defenses because of the way he shoots the basketball. But Jordan Zimmer alone doesn't get us to the Final Four, and we've had Ellie Gonzalez has played a spectacular point guard position from a defensive standpoint, as well as offensively running the offense, hit the game winner against Worcester. Steve Rudnicki is kind of a backup point 2 guard that's playing the best basketball of his life. I mean, he's just been shooting the ball well, but just having just great floor games. I mentioned John Kosniewski. He gives us that 6'6" athletic wing, and right now, really, the story of our success is we've been able to, our big wings, 6'5" and 6'6", in Jordan and John Kosniewski, and our versatile post players that are able to kind of step out and go inside. And I think those have proved to be some challenging matchups for other teams.
You mentioned Kosniewski and Rudnicki. Davis is playing well. You're certainly getting contributions from many. Let me go back to the Worcester game quickly. A 2-point win. You guys shoot 50% from beyond the arc in the first half, but 22% in the second half. You definitely shot worse. They shot in the second half 61% from the floor. Clearly that was their bread and butter. But I've got to ask you, have you seen a stranger finish to a game in the sense that Worcester's guy gets fouled with 2 seconds on the clock, goes to the line to shoot 2, and airballs the first one?
Yeah, and in all fairness to that young man, I mean, he was having a very good basketball game.
Yes.
And had been knocking down free throws all game. And, as a coach, I certainly wasn't rooting for him to make the shot, but you never wish that on a young man.
Right.
And, again, that's part of basketball. I thought, there are times down the stretch where, free throws make a big difference. And I tell you what, they shot the second free throw he shot and intentionally missed,
right,
like they needed to do.
Yep.
And there's kind of a scramble for the ball at the end. We didn't secure it initially, and they got the ball in their hands, but fortunately the time was running down.
Yeah, definitely the tipping around allowed those 2 seconds to tick off the clock quickly. We mentioned Davis. He had 18 in that game. Rudnicki had 13. Ziemniak had 11. Plenty of contributions from a lot of guys outside of that. Total rebounds, nobody had double figures, but certainly everybody seemed to get the boards there. That seemed to correlate right into the Wittenberg game, where obviously more players played because of the fact that it was a non-factor. We'll get to that in a second. But Zimmer has 14. Gonzalez has 10. You certainly had, and by the way, 11 rebounds out of Reed. You certainly had Wittenberg's number. You shoot 51% plus for the second half, 48% total. They shoot 28% total. This is a good shooting team normally in Wittenberg, and you guys seem to do a number on them.
Well, I think we just didn't give them many easy shots. And, it goes down to, we always, contested shots don't beat you over 40 minutes typically. And so our goal was to, make sure that when they shot the ball that we had a hand up and that it was contested. And again, part of it's good fortune. They didn't shoot it as well as, they had some looks they missed. But at the same time, I thought our defense was active enough that they didn't get a lot of easy shots. And so they were having to make shots with a hand up. And, our defense really came through. That's something I think that, kind of has been our calling card all year. We've been a little inconsistent on the offensive end in the middle part of the season. Lately, at the Wittenberg game, we had 7 players score 8 or more points.
Yeah,
and
right.
so we're really spreading the offense around. Guys, everyone is kind of understands their role and understands how they can contribute on the offensive end. And right now, we're just playing very unselfish basketball. And Coach Brown, Wittenberg's coach, made a comment in terms of they hadn't expected our ball movement, how quickly the ball was being swung, and that's something that
really
you can see that when we do that, we're at our best. When we're getting multiple touches by multiple players and getting guys in spots that they're most comfortable, and I thought we did that against Wittenberg.
That's interesting for him to say, considering he played a Carroll team that certainly moved the ball well against them, but Wittenberg still won, and Wittenberg moves the ball well, I thought. One observation from the all-time Titan fan at this point, Bob Quillman, was that you guys tended to double down on Clayton Black and Alex Brandt, something North Central did not do. Black got into 4 fouls, though he had 10 points. Brandt had 1 foul. I saw a little bit of that double teaming from Birmingham Southern, when they played Wittenberg. But it certainly looked like you were far more successful in it than anybody else has been.
Well, those 2 guys are low. I mean, going into the game, they kept me up the night before because, those are 2 big, strong players that when we watched them play North Central, they really isolate those guys on the block and let them go to work. And but at the same time, what really makes them difficult to guard is you got those 2 guys, but then they surround them with guys who can shoot the ball from the perimeter.
Yeah.
And I think that's really been a formula for Wittenberg's success this season. And so we really tried to mix it up. We went down and doubled at times, and then there were times we stayed home, and we just didn't want to stay with either strategy for long periods of time because they're such a smart team that if you don't double them, those big guys will beat you, and if you do double them too consistently, I think they find shooters. And so we tried to mix it up, and so that so that post players didn't feel comfortable knowing whether the double was coming or not.
You move on now, and you will go to yet another Final Four weekend in Salem. I believe it's your 5th in the Salem era, according to Bob Quiltman. And you will take on Cabrini, who beat Scranton at Middlebury. A Cabrini squad that's been highly ranked in the top 25 and regionally ranked number 1 since the get-go, but bring in a whole different set of circumstances and a whole set of different matchup issues. I know you haven't seen tape necessarily, but in the 24 hours since beating Wittenberg, what have you learned and what do you think you may need to deal with?
Well, you're right. I haven't probably watched enough to make a fair evaluation, but I know they score a lot of points. I know they're very athletic, guard-oriented team that from the little bit I've seen, they got a dynamic point guard out front that can really break you down, cause you problems. And then they have a number of other slashers that can get to the basket. So that's going to be a major challenge in terms of how can we contain that penetration. I think it appears that we may have a little size advantage, and so I think it's going to be a interesting dynamic of, are we able to contain them through the penetration, and then on the flip side, are we able to take advantage of some of that size advantage that we might have?
Sure. And clearly that game, I believe I heard that game will be the first game in Salem.
That's right.
At 6 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday for all you Titans fans who are planning to make the trip. I was talking to Coach Maya Smith earlier. Clearly there's a lot of excitement at Illinois Wesleyan with 3 teams in championships this weekend, along with the men's and women's. I believe the first time the Illinois Wesleyan has had both teams in championship weekends in basketball. From what have you heard, are you going to take the short end of the stick on the fans here, or do you think it's going to be evenly distributed?
Well, I think it's great. I want to say congratulations to Maya and the women's team. They've had a great year, and I'm really happy and proud of those guys. And I think the challenge is, though, it does split your fan base, and I bet it will be split. I think we are both very fortunate to have some very loyal fans, and Wesleyan has always had those, and I hope we both have a good following this weekend. And we had for the 7-hour, 8-hour trip that we both made, I think Wesleyan was well represented in both locations this past weekend, and hopefully we will be next weekend as well.
Yeah, very good. And we always expect the Titans to show up in force no matter where they are, so we'll look forward to seeing that in Salem. I will look forward to seeing you there as well, and good luck for sure in trying to secure another national title. But in the meantime, as always, we give the coach the final word. You probably remember that from our talk so many days ago. Any final thoughts this time you want to share with those listening?
Well, I tell you what, it's a great time of year. We've had a fun run, these previous 2 weekends, and hope to keep it going. And want to thank all the Titan listeners that are listening tonight and have been following us throughout the season.
Well put. Thank you so much for joining us as well. I'll look forward to seeing you in Salem, and we'll talk then.
That sounds great. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem. Take care. Ron Rose joining us from Illinois Wesleyan again. Both Titan squads moving on to the championship weekend. I believe the last time that happened was WashU in the 08-09 season, and I believe it's happened a total of 5 times at least in more modern times. WashU, Illinois Wesleyan, somebody posted them somewhere, and I can't find them right now, but I think Williams may have done it once. Amherst may have. I'm not positive. I'm speaking very off cuff there, except for the last 2. I know Illinois Wesleyan this year, and WashU back in 09 had done it as well. We're going to take another break. On the other side, we're going to definitely raise the academic bar just a little bit, and well beyond my academic prowess. Not that I had much, but we're going to talk to MIT's Jamie Carricker. You would not believe, if you have not heard, what his double major is in and what he has for a job lined up already for whenever he's done with school. These guys are definitely student athletes, and we'll talk to him coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back after this.
Daddy, I'm only 3 years old, but when you look at me, I could see your wheels turning. You're dreaming about what am I going to be when I grow up? A Major League first baseman? Maybe a point guard for the national championship team? Or the winner of the Heisman Trophy?
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete? 1 in 16,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Dad, let's keep dreaming the impossible while looking out for the possible, okay?
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
All season long, let D3Football.com be your home for all the Division III football action on the road to the Stag Bowl. From interactive blogs and message boards to columns from around the region and around the nation on your favorite teams, nobody covers NCAA Division III better than D3Football.com. As the playoffs approach, get the scoop on who's in and who's out from the experts who picked all 32 teams last year. Don't go anywhere else. Get the info from the source for Division III football at www.D3Football.com.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. Broadcasting on Ustream, as always. If you're on the Ustream page, you can join us in the chat room. I know there's a few of you in there right now, including our favorite MIT fan. He's got some questions we will answer in a bit. In the meantime, if you're not on our Ustream page and you're actually on the page on D3Hoopsville.com or D3Hoops.com, don't worry about it. You can contact us via email at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us in the chat room, as we mentioned. You can also join us on Twitter. The Twitter account is D3Hoopsville. So if you go to twitter.com/D3Hoopsville, you'll be good to go there. You can also just at D3Hoopsville on your Twitter account. You can also use the hashtag Hoopsville, hashtag #Hoopsville. And we have Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. And if anybody happens to ask a question, we are trying to keep an eye on it tonight, though it is a little bit challenging. But be a friend there, and we'll link you archives and whatnot there as well. So lots to cover. And I think that covers it for right now. So we will waste a little more time and jump to our next guest. And we're definitely elevating the educational side of things here as Jamie Carricker joins us from the number 3 MIT Engineers, senior guard for the team. Jamie, welcome to Hoopsville.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know Coach Anderson gave you no choice. And I can tell you that there are fans listening in Morgantown, West Virginia, where we know you are from.
Yep.
Of course, you went to Phillips Exeter, so as a Salisbury grad myself, I'm going to let that slide. You take your Phillips Exeter, I'll take my Salisbury, and we'll just meet somewhere in between.
Okay.
First off, congratulations. Not only have you guys achieved quite a bit for MIT basketball on what had already started to grow about 5 years ago, certainly, but you are now leaps and bounds past that, going to Salem for the school's first time in history, in the Final Four period for the first time in history. Tell us about this past weekend. You had to get past Staten Island in the first game, and then you had to take out the host team in Franklin and Marshall, and I was there and can say it was 2 very different ball games.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 very tough teams, and I thought we played really well both games. We definitely shot it very well both games, and so that definitely helped. But I think Mitchell Cates, our point guard, played great both games, and our bigs, Noel Hollingsworth and Will Tashman, also played pretty well, and Dan McHugh played great defense, and I think we had a great team effort to come out of there with 2 wins. It was a really tough group of 4 to come out of.
The 3 teams in the top 10 in there. In Amherst, number 2, you're number 3, F&M number 9, and Staten Island. Let's talk about Friday's game against Staten Island. They're a little bit more athletic, a little bit more run and gun, but man, your defense seemed to certainly stifle them And yourself and others, McHugh especially, seemed to hit some key shots, especially in the first half, that seemed to have the Dolphins a little bit confused.
Right, yeah. I mean, we knew they were going to be a very athletic team, and we knew they had a couple really talented players that we had to focus on stopping. Tibbs, the point guard, and McGlure, the wing. We really focused on trying to contain, and I thought we played really great defense, and we shot the heck out of the ball in the first half and came out of there with a really good win.
And then you take on the next night, Franklin and Marshall at their own gym. While they went on spring break, they still seem to get quite a few fans at the Mazer Center. And, they had come off of a big win against Amherst the night before. From your point of view, just going into the game, what was your thought and what was the team's thought on how you were going to try and stop F&M?
Well, I think our focus defensively in that game was inside around the paint. They don't shoot a whole lot of threes, so we knew we had to focus on stopping them inside and stopping Giorgio Milligan, who's a great point guard, from going off like he did the night before. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, just slightly. But at the same time, he still got his points.
Yeah.
It seemed you also had a very good job inside, kind of limiting F&M to a lot of opportunities inside, not only scoring, but rebounding as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we knew we had to out-rebound them to have a chance of winning, and so that was a big focus of our game plan, is to control the glass.
Clearly, Coach Anderson and the rest have you guys prepared pretty well, though the one thing I joked with him when I saw him this weekend was the rumors and speculation is he leaves it up to his seniors to run practices for the most part. You are technically one of those seniors. There's a core of you, though there's talk that many of you are returning next year. We'll get to that in a minute.
Right.
What is practice like for an MIT squad?
Well, later in the year, it's been a very long season, and so Coach has given us more and more responsibility for running practice as we get farther into the season. And he always talks about being a player-run program, which I think we've become more and more, and I think that's a good thing to be.
Yeah, it is an interesting way to be. I believe he even chatted with us on Thursday night while you were still at practice, so he's slacking off, if you're wondering. And quickly about this is a team that doesn't go very deep on the bench. Billy Bender being injured in the first game of the NCAA tournament and hasn't been cleared to play again has made that bench even shorter. Daniel McHugh has certainly stepped up into that role. But talk about this team and why you've been so successful when usually teams making deep runs have deep benches.
Yeah, I mean we have a lot of talent on the bench, and even though they haven't gotten a whole lot of minutes late in the season, the minutes they've given us in these tournament games have really been quality minutes. And so even though we don't play our bench a whole lot, I think we still get a lot of good production out of our bench.
So you have to take on this Franklin and Marshall squad with Giorgio Milligan and stuff, and a lot of other really good players. Before that, I know you were getting plenty of attention from your alums. After that, you must have been getting plenty of attention from your alums. What's it been like to be on this run so far in this NCAA tournament?
Oh, man, it's been crazy. Yeah, I mean, we're getting emails, we're getting calls from all these, there are a bunch of alums that are all paying attention. The student body back on campus is getting really into it, and all the attention's been great. All the support has been amazing.
Clearly, you'll be making your first ever trip to the Final Four, and obviously you just got back from about a 7-hour trip home. Clearly, academics come into play at MIT. I wouldn't say necessarily more than any other school in Division III, because that's not fair to the rest of the student athletes. But your level of academics is certainly in a whole nother stratosphere. The thing that keeps jumping out about me about you, and correct me if I'm not wrong, because I could be confusing these things with your other teammates, but I believe you're a double major.
That's right.
In what sounds like a triple major. Computer science / electrical engineering. That's not the double. That's the single.
That's one major. Yeah, that's how they denote that major here.
That's two in many people's books.
Right.
And then you threw in physics for the hell of it.
Yeah, kind of.
At what point did you think that was a good idea?
Oh, I mean, I've always been really interested in physics, and so that was more of a side interest major. And I've actually been done with my physics classes for almost a year now.
A side interest major.
Yeah.
Usually that's called a minor.
Right. If they had a minor in physics here, I probably would have done that. But I had already taken a bunch of the classes, so I decided, why not go ahead for the full major?
I can understand that. Now, you interned last summer, is it? Am I correct? At Facebook, sat close to.
Right.
Some reports say you sat rather close to Mark Zuckerberg. You must have made some kind of impression because you have been promised a job when you graduate.
Right.
So the question is that graduation coming up in the near future, or are you coming back? There are reports that some of the players are coming back for one more year because of medical red shirts. Are you going to come back one more year, and will Zuckerberg wait that one more year?
Yeah, I'm going to graduate with my undergrad degree this year, but then I'm going to stay for a fifth-year master's next year. And I do have that extra year of eligibility because I was hurt my sophomore year and I got a medical red shirt. And so I am planning on staying next year to play basketball again. And then Facebook has been generous enough to push that job off for me till after that year.
It sounds like to me some people want you there rather badly. What was the experience like last summer?
Oh, it was an amazing experience to just get thrown into that world and just be a part of it from day one was a really, really great experience. I learned a whole lot over the summer.
Can you and I stay in touch so that when you get there, you can help us make Hoopsville a little bit better on Facebook, and I can kind of trade some ideas with you? Just like, hey, what is Mark doing? Can we talk about this?
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep in touch about that.
Very good. I mean, obviously, the rest of your brethren have incredible majors and incredible jobs. And what I found interesting is that MIT read a great article in the Lancaster paper today. A great article that pointed out the fact that at MIT, most schools have a mandatory study hall for some. Heck, I had it in high school, and others have it as well. But from your point of view, you have a mandatory do not study 2 hours every night, and clearly during basketball season, that's when you throw in practice. What is the reason for that do not study 2 hours from not necessarily your basketball point of view, because clearly that's when you can have practice, but from a student's point of view at MIT?
Well, I think everyone at MIT is pretty self-motivated to do well academically, and so everyone is going to do the work and going to work hard studying on their own, and so I think it's good for a lot of people to kind of take a break and to relax a little, to refresh before they keep on studying.
It's one of the rare things I've ever seen. Usually their schools are trying to get their students to study, and yours is trying to get them to stop studying. Now, obviously, it was funny because, I hear this all the time. Bowdoin's women's coach said she had like 3 tests to proctor on Friday morning before their games. Your coach said that Hollingsworth had to get a test proctored that morning. I ran into him around 11 o'clock, almost midnight on Friday night, and he was about to proctor another exam for one of your younger students on the team. You are in the middle of midterms. How are you guys prepared for the definite more travel this coming week?
We've expected to be traveling a whole lot these last couple weeks and this coming week, and so we've known from a while ago that we were going to have to really stay on top of our schoolwork and get everything done early to prepare for these trips. And so I think we're doing all right because we've been preparing for this for a while.
Which is impressive to say the least, that you're prepared for a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Ranked number 3 in the country, you'll get to face off on Friday night against a very different squad in Wisconsin Whitewater. You, as a basketball player, what have you learned about this Whitewater team maybe ahead of things, or what have you gathered from coaches, et cetera? Obviously, tapes have not arrived yet, but what are you thinking about when you think about Whitewater and Friday night's game?
Right. I don't know so much about their team. I've looked at their stats a little bit. It seems like they have a very talented player inside, but I haven't been able to watch them play yet, and we're definitely going to start preparing this week and looking at tape during this week.
Certainly, and then obviously you're heading to Salem and everything that entails there. I already had at least one set of parents asking me right after the game about travel plans. Are there already distractions?
There are some distractions, but we've had a lot of distractions for a long time, and we've learned to kind of separate them from both basketball and our academic studies. So we're just focused on going into practice tomorrow and getting ready for this game, and getting our work done before we go.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
It's impressive, to say the least, on what you guys have accomplished this season, and we are certainly looking forward to seeing how you progress in the Final Four at Salem. As always, we give the guests the final word here on Hoopsville, so any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who are listening?
Just really excited for the weekend, and go Tech.
There you go. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good luck this weekend. I'll see you there in Salem as well. And
right,
we'll look forward to seeing how you guys match up against Whitewater.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care. Jamie Carricker joining us from MIT. Appreciate him taking the time to do that. If you got any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's d3hoopsville.com. Sorry, I'm replying to a quick email. Hold on. Trying to line up another guest, if you can believe it, for this show. Pat Coleman will join us here in a little bit. But again, email us d3hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can use your AOL-IM at Hoopsville2000. That's Hoopsville2000 on your AOL-IM. You can also join us on the chat room if you happen to be inside the Ustream page. If not, don't worry about it. We also have Twitter. That's at D3Hoopsville. That's at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. And you can also go to Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Trying to think if there's something. Oh, I did have a question in there from an MIT fan. Let's see. When you have the other side of the bracket, where are your thoughts on MIT, specifically Mitch Cates' play? Where would you stack him against point guard you've seen this season? I've been impressed with the MIT. I was impressed with everybody, honestly. Staten Island got blown out in some sense by MIT, but that was due to MIT's defense. I don't think Staten Island had an answer for a shutdown defense like MIT's, and that would have been the case against Franklin and Marshall as well. I think their game played badly into those types of defenses. Amherst played very good. I was disappointed in Aaron Toomey, but I think that was a youth thing. I don't mean to take anything away from him. He is a very good basketball player, and he's got 2 more seasons left in him. He could be a very good basketball player. Some were trying to make correlations to Andrew Olson. I'm not ready to make that correlation whatsoever. But Toomey's a good ball player. I don't think he adjusted well to how the game was being played. I don't think he adjusted well to how he was playing. And I think that hurt Amherst a little bit. That being said, they were a very good basketball team. I think they deserve to be highly ranked. And I think Dave Hickson did a very good job with that squad. They went up against a Franklin and Marshall defense that was playing extremely well. Giorgio Milligan, I thought, had a very good defensive game and especially had a good offensive game, scoring 30 points. I think he put up 20-plus points in 3 out of the 4 NCAA tournament games this year. So Amherst, I think, just kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. And then Franklin Marshall did the same thing against MIT, another real defensive battle. There were times we went minutes and minutes and minutes without anybody scoring. And then Franklin Marshall missed some key free throws down in the final minutes that would have kept them a little bit closer. You don't hear this very often, but a 9-point ball game felt like the ball game was over or out of reach for F&M. You don't hear that often, but that's how good these two defenses were playing. I think MIT is certainly going to give some matchup problems to Whitewater. I don't know, though, how they're going to match up. I'm looking forward to breaking that one down this week as I get ready for Salem as well. I think Salem's got a bunch of different opportunities here in games that are just going to be different no matter who ends up in the championship game. As far as Mitch Cates, he's a very good ball player. He's definitely a very good point guard. Where I would put him up, I don't know. He certainly is a very good defender, and I think he plays very well. He certainly shoots very well. But there's a lot of good point guards this year if you think about it. Giorgio Milligan is one of the best, I think. I think, All-American type. Cates may be in that argument. You have Matt Addison down at Hardin-Simmons, who is a very good guard if no one got a chance to see him. Corey Lemons at Cabrini, extremely good guard as well. And I could go on. Aaron Toomey is a good guard, though, again, I don't think he had a very good game on Saturday or on Friday. You could go through the list of guys who are guards in Division III, and it is tough. There's going to be some who probably deserve to be first-teamers who will end up second or third because there are just so many good guards this year. And I think, where Cates falls in that right now, I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to going back and looking at video of that this week, and we'll see where it all plays out. But Cates didn't disappoint, that's for sure, but he played pretty good basketball as well. But his teammates around him, McHugh stepped up to the plate, I thought, shot very well. Carricker played very well as well. Hollingsworth inside playing pretty good too. So we're going to take a quick break. Pat Coleman's going to join us on the other side, and we're still trying to line up one more guest, if you can believe it. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back right after this.
And make you cheer.
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
Are you an embarrassment on the dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
NCAA Women's College Basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA Women's College Basketball.
Amber alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old, suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberAlerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I am your host, Dave McHugh. We'll go to the Hoopsville hotline in just a minute, but I'm trying to confirm here. Yep, we'll have Corey Lemons here on the show momentarily after we chat with Pat Coleman, but Corey Lemons from Cabrini will be joining us here on Hoopsville as well, and now you can see my ugly mug. If you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can IM us at Hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville. That's at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. And join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. If you're in the chat room on the page, that's actually the Ustream page, please feel free to join us in there, and there is a chat room. Otherwise, you've got those other avenues that you can certainly join us as well. Let's go to the Hoopsville hotline, and joining us there is our colleague Pat Coleman, who was at the University of Chicago on the women's side this past weekend. And Pat, welcome back.
Thank you.
I will have to admit, I did not see some things coming, and clearly we'll get to a lot of other things. But the one thing I did not see coming was an 18-point win by Calvin over Chicago on Chicago's home court on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's kind of hard to really explain, to be honest with you, why that happened. Obviously, I mean, Calvin, of course, played some spectacular basketball, obviously, and they shot really well from 3-point range, and Carissa Verkuyk is Carissa Verkuyk. She had a really good game. They were forced to send Calvin to the foul line, and Calvin didn't really miss down the stretch. But it's the other players around her did pretty well. They had a nice performance from Julia Hilbrands off the bench that night with 9 points to help put them over the hump. And Chicago just they struggled from 3-point range a little bit. They struggled to take care of the basketball, and Calvin took advantage of that. But in general, Calvin played some pretty good defense, and they really kind of laid it all out on the floor there on Friday, I think, somewhat unfortunately, because in talking to John Ross, the head coach, for our pregame show on Saturday, he said, he wasn't quite sure how much energy the players were going to have, and it kind of seemed that way. It seemed to play out that way during the game. Calvin was up early and then down by as many as 11 in the second half, put together a run, tied it up, had a look at the buzzer that rimmed out, and then they missed their first 4 shots and turned the ball over 4 times to start overtime, and they were really out of it at that point against St. Thomas on Saturday.
And that was the other thing, I just half expected Calvin, after beating Chicago, to beat St. Thomas. Nothing against St. Thomas. They have had a heck of a season this year. And it's funny that another St. Thomas team's in the Final Four, just in a different city than last year. But you look at that Calvin result, you're like, okay, so they'll move on. Nothing against St. Thomas, but clearly they are a very darn good team, and I don't know if St. Thomas is going to be able to upend an 18-point victory over a darn good Chicago team.
Yeah, and I think that was the consensus from watching both teams play Friday night going into Saturday, that Calvin would be favored by, maybe even by double digits. I think one of the things that's, really hard to quantify at this level is, the quality of defense. When a team is really structured around its defense, how does that play out? Individual matchups are always a question as well. And boy, St. Thomas just did a number on Tufts on Friday, and then obviously on Saturday they had Calvin basically on the ropes for about 34 minutes or so. Calvin got its run to get back into the game. At one point they were shooting 55% in the second half, and then things kind of tailed off after that. And as I mentioned, they were 1 of 7 from the floor in overtime, 1 of 6 from 3-point range. They turned the ball over so much early in overtime that they were forced to go beyond the arc, and they weren't getting anything, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Well, and that was the interesting thing, and so St. Thomas kind of comes out of that with a big win, for sure, especially in that program's history, and move on to the Final Four. I find it interesting that conceivably, we could have had 3 undefeated teams make it to Holland. Instead, we're going to have 2. St. Thomas will play Illinois Wesleyan in one game, and Amherst versus George Fox. The two left undefeated teams will have to face each other in the semifinals. It guarantees an undefeated team in the championship game, but it's kind of unfortunate we couldn't kind of do a hockey playoffs type thing here and go and rearrange the seating real quick.
Well, I suppose, but obviously it was set up for Amherst and Chicago to face off in the finals.
Oh, absolutely.
Chicago didn't make it, but we still have, so we mentioned, of course, obviously there's two undefeated teams, that's for sure. Obviously St. Thomas is no slouch either. They're 30-1 with the one loss being to Wisconsin-Stevens Point, so that's 30 wins, no bad losses, and a pretty good record to boot. And so Illinois Wesleyan, they've lost 5 games, but you kind of look down the list. Just a reminder of who they lost to. Wheaton is the only. If Wheaton's your worst loss, and the Wheaton women were 18-8, 11-3 in the CCIW, that's pretty good because the other 4 are Whitewater, DePauw, Chicago, and Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and all of those were NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. Of course, there was plenty of other basketball action out there. You'll be heading to Holland, so let's stick on the women's side of things for just a bit here, a little bit more. Mary Washington losing to George Fox. George Fox looks pretty darn good. They'll take on Amherst. And Illinois Wesleyan, as we mentioned, is in the other side. If you were to look at this, obviously on paper right now, and you've seen several of these teams in person, actually, I would argue you have seen probably 3 of the 4? Or did you get a chance to see Illinois Wesleyan?
Not this year.
Okay.
I've seen all of them at some point in time, and with some of the players that are still playing. So, but I've only seen Amherst and St. Thomas in person this season.
Who do you think is going to get to the national championship game, or furthermore, who do you think comes out of this?
Yeah, well, I think here's where I think the crux of it's going to be, and I know you were talking with GP Gromacki earlier about everybody's eyes being on that game. And there's a reason why, obviously with the 2 unbeaten teams. But, I think one of the other things is there's kind of a bit of a mismatch there, personnel-wise. Hannah Munger is a player that Amherst doesn't really have an equivalent for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The big classic, 6'5", 6'4" post player who plays close to the basket, has... In this case, I think she blocks a little over 4 shots a game. She's averaging in double figures, almost averaging a double-double, moves the ball pretty well. Those are things that Amherst, may have seen over the course of the season, although I can't think of the player on their schedule that necessarily provides them a good look at something like that. But they certainly don't have something on their roster that, is the same type of player as that. So I think that's going to be one of the most interesting matchup of Friday night. And we have a tendency to always end up with a team that we end up kind of discounting going into the Final Four, whether it's men or women. And I suspect that despite the fact that St. Thomas is 30-1, they might end up being that team. But I don't think we can really discount any of these 4 teams just because one of them's got 5 losses and one of them is not undefeated. I don't think that means that any of them doesn't have a really good shot at winning this thing. I think St. Thomas is really well coached. They got that whole defense, and you know what defense does this time of year, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the things I got from following, for example, St. Thomas football and to an extent St. Thomas men's basketball last season out in this part of the country is they really have this kind of similar feel to them, all 3 of those teams, where it's a family that wants to stick together and they want to keep playing another week. They want to stay together for another week or another night or whatever.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that really motivates them and helps them play together as a team. For football, that was a huge part of their talking points. And the women's basketball folks aren't exactly saying that quite as much, but I definitely got that impression from them. And I think that a team that bonds like that, has a little bit of, extra oomph in their sides. Not that everybody doesn't bond like that a little bit, but,
no.
You get what I'm saying.
Well, and interestingly, I was going to jump to the men's side. You almost have a little bit of bonding like that in a couple of these teams. You got an MIT squad who certainly bonds in many ways. Academics are certainly one of them. but just the way coach runs practices and stuff, as Jamie Carragher had pointed out, it allows them to bond a bit, and missing Billy Bender has allowed them to figure out who are the next guys to step up. You got a Cabrini squad that certainly seems to be all on the same page this season. Illinois Wesleyan has rallied around injuries this year to some key players and have been able to make this incredible run. And then Whitewater, I think they're maybe the one I don't know as well in the sense of team bonding, but certainly you got to be a good team to get through the WIAC to begin with and get to this stage. On the men's side of things, this is a fascinating Final Four, and I would argue 4 very, very different teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for Whitewater, the difference for them this year, we've talked about so many times in the past 6-7 years or so that a Whitewater team would start off really strong and then kind of fade down the stretch. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think one of the things that's different this year is Whitewater's really more committed to playing both sides of the ball, to playing defense, and that is one of the things that may have tripped them up in seasons past. You go up against a team that that can score a lot and you can't shut them down. That's going to be an issue this time of year, and they've had some success with that. MIT, you saw MIT play this weekend, so I'm not going to try to talk too much about them. Cabrini has had a really interesting path to the Final Four this season, and then Illinois Wesleyan. So the last time I saw Illinois Wesleyan play, I thought they were pretty average. They looked bad against Wheaton in the CCIW semifinals the last time I saw them play, and that's it. They've been lights out ever since. So I think that's one of the interesting things about Illinois Wesleyan as a program. You remember, for example, under Denny Bridges, they pretty much performed in March like you expected them to.
Yes.
They if their regular season record would kind of hold up. Then for a few years in between, it seemed like they had some really great regular seasons, some great talent, and then would get knocked out of the tournament maybe earlier than expected. This year, and in recent past years, I should say, not just this year, but under Ron Rose, it seems like it's the opposite way around. Maybe they struggle a little bit in the conference, but boy, when they hit March,
you don't want to face them.
Yeah, Ron Rose is like 8-2 in the NCAA tournament or something like that. And that's just crazy. It's a very interesting turnaround for that program.
And they join the ranks of the Wash U's and the rest, where both men and women will be playing in the championship weekend.
We can call it Final Four in this show. So,
I
right?
know. I just old habits.
It's only you that can't call it Final Four on Friday and Saturday. Good luck with that, by the way.
Thanks. Thanks. I hadn't said much about it, but thanks. Now that the spotlight is on.
That's right.
I do a lot of work in the week leading up to Salem, for sure, getting ready for everything, whether it's broadcasting and stuff, and how we'll broadcast. My workload just increased.
Yeah. So you haven't. I know I haven't been listening to the whole show. So am I breaking the news? Or
you go right ahead.
All right. So here's the deal, folks. You know how last year NCAA.com and Turner kind of did their own show with Division III and no longer used us as their commentators on the air. Well, it's changing a little bit this year. You're listening to the show or watching the show that's hosted by the guy who's going to be doing color for the NCAA Division III men's basketball national semifinals and championship games. So Dave McHugh will be the color analyst on NCAA.com this weekend, and congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. And actually, the All-Star game is included. There was a mistake in some of my emails, so I'll have all 4
games.
There you go. And, semifinals on Friday, the All-Star game on Saturday, and the championship on Saturday. I have to go in front of the camera, which I'm used to doing regionally, but not nationally, so I better look my darndest and sound like my darndest.
So that means no Mac and Bob's on Thursday or Pine Room.
Well, the games are later. I can maybe recover a little bit more, but
you get a workout in. Okay.
I gotta at least get the workout in. Yeah, absolutely.
Frank Rossi can tell you where to work out.
There you go. Right. I'll call Frank and find out from him. No, it's a great opportunity. I'm glad they took advantage of working with us again. It just happens to be me. We could pick from a lot of guys who cover Division III sports for us to do this, and I'm just glad to get that opportunity, and we'll look forward to it for sure. And that's changed some of our plans down there as well. Obviously, with both entities, Pat, you can probably allude to this more. We won't actually be broadcasting the games as our entity, but we're going to find ways to do other things to provide more coverage.
Yeah. So what we'll be doing is similar to actually what we've done on D3Baseball.com, for example, where we haven't been broadcasting at the D3 World Series, but we have been live blogging, writing our stories, and then doing a kind of a post-game video wrap-up at the end of the day. Also some interviews, that sort of thing. So our coverage, instead of, I think the way we've done it almost pretty much for the last 12 years or so on D3Hoops.com, is so much of our energy was focused on providing a good in-game broadcast experience. And now that we don't have to do that necessarily, we'll be branching out a little bit, and you'll actually see probably more content, outside of the broadcast. And you can get the broadcast from NCAA.com, and they've done, they have a great feed and a great technical setup, and it's looked fantastic in the championships that they've done over the last 13, 14 months or so. And, now they'll have Dave on the call, so someone who actually knows about Division III basketball.
Yes, it'll be fun to do.
You do know about Division III basketball.
I know a few things. It's now. Wait, do they get scholarships?
No, there's no scholarship. By the way, these guys can really play.
Yeah, they can.
Let's get that out of the way now.
I will try and keep that at bay, but certainly going to look forward to that. And obviously, we will not do a Hoopsville on Thursday night either. I don't know my production schedule just yet. I know there's going to be meetings, and I know there's going to be interview sessions, but we're going to try and do some things differently. So we won't have our traditional Hoopsville show on Thursday night, but we will be trying to get some interviews. We're still working on the logistics of that to post up on D3Hoops.com, so that'll take its place. And obviously I'll be on the call, but Gordon Mann and others will be at D. Salem, and Pat Coleman. And who's joining you, sir, in Holland?
Brian Lester will be making the trip up from Ohio to join me at the Women's Final Four.
Very good, and we'll provide you everything in between, including Twitter updates and stuff like that. So, by the way, quickly, before I let you go, I did get a question as I lose the microphone again. There we go. As to who I have as national champs. I'm actually gonna say this and mean it. I'm not picking the games on the men's side. I'm taking a page out of ESPN and some of the guys who do games for ESPN, and not pick who I think wins games, so that nobody thinks I've got a favorite in the match or in the game. So I am not picking anybody at all for Salem. But Pat, why don't you go to you for Salem, and then we'll both do Holland. How's that sound?
Yeah, it's an interesting group of this four now. I kind of almost don't know what to make of it. If I'm thinking offhand, not knowing necessarily so much how individual players match up with each other, I think that, in my head, I just talked myself out of somebody.
Really?
Yeah, so here's my thinking is I have Whitewater all plugged up in my head, ready to go. And then I'm thinking, I'm thinking about Whitewater and the large gymnasium. But, then again, Chris Davis is a guy who plays close enough to the basket that the long-range shooting isn't necessarily a big issue. So the question is, do they have somebody who can match up with him? Now, I've seen Whitewater play, and you've seen MIT play. Do they have someone who can body up with him inside?
Yeah, they do. I mean, Hollingsworth is certainly a factor. They know their defense is a little bit different than I think people expect. I don't know how to describe it better than that. I saw them surprise teams this week defensively, and Davis is a good player. I think he might be in for some surprises, but Milligan got his points. Don't be surprised if Davis gets his. It's the rest of the team you got to wonder if they're going to be able to provide.
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to it, Whitewater's the champion of one of the toughest couple of leagues in the country, and they've lived up to it over the course of the postseason. Sure. They've done it at home, obviously, but they did it against the defending champ. They did it against a strong team from the CCIW. They did it against the champ of the ODAC. So I think that they're relatively tournament tested. All these other three teams have had to go do it away from their home gymnasium, and in fact, MIT and Illinois Wesleyan have done it exclusively away from home. Cabrini has, obviously we're helped out by the fact that Scranton knocked Middlebury out. So
Yes.
I think that there may be an issue for them when they face Illinois Wesleyan on Friday night, when the pace of the tournament kind of picks up significantly for them, playing in a big gym.
Yep.
With all the extra, stuff that goes on around the national semifinal game, and then against a team who's a lot more tournament tested than Cabrini is. I suspect we probably see Illinois Wesleyan in the championship game, and I'm not sure about the others. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, I could just go with the poll and say MIT is our number 3 team in the country, so I'll go with them.
Oh, that's an easy way to do it. Let's jump on the women's side, and
I know I did take the easy way out.
You did, but that's
fine. It's going to
fine.
be even easier over here. I mean, Amherst has only won 50 games in a row.
I was going to say, on the other side of things, you got Amherst, who's number 1 and won 50-some-odd games. You got Illinois Wesleyan, St. Thomas, and George Fox also playing, by the way. You think you'd take Amherst out of this one as well?
Yeah, I think, first of all, there's, the respect that you give a defending champion until they lose. And Amherst has not only not lost, they've continued to be dominant. It's just I think this is a machine that is rolling towards its, final destination, to be honest with you. This is a big group of seniors that has done it once, and doing it twice, including with an undefeated season, would be a real big feather in their cap. Obviously, that happens more often in women's basketball than it does in men's basketball, but it's still pretty rare. So I would say I think that's an extra motivating factor for them, not just the fact they would win another championship, but this was a chance to do it undefeated. I just think that Amherst has got talent, and they're very well coached. We know that from Gramacki teams in the past. While I like George Fox's talent, I think that Gramacki is a proven commodity in March.
Yeah, and knows how to adjust.
Schools.
Yeah, and I've been trying to rack my brain to give George Fox this one in the game, but I can't. 6 losses total for this senior class at Amherst, 4 of them being their first year there. They've been to 4 straight now Final Fours. I just think the experience they have. Now, granted, George Fox was there just a couple years ago and won the national title as well.
At Hope, even.
At Hope, right. They're obviously familiar here, and so is Amherst. But you're right. I mean, that is a heck of a winning streak, and it's not like it's nip and tuck. They had 2 games this year that jump out at me as tight ones. The rest of them they have dominated, and I think this one will be close. But I can't imagine Amherst comes out of that. And nothing against St. Thomas or Illinois Wesleyan. Whoever they're playing, whether it's Amherst or George Fox, I think it's a whole other ball game. And I think it's Amherst, and I think Amherst takes away a second straight title. And 52, 53 straight games at that point in time.
Yeah, I think that would make it 52.
So, I got to go with Amherst there as well. So we'll see how that happens. Well, I appreciate you joining us here. I got to let you go because Corey Lemons is coming up. But have fun at Holland as you take the NCAA route of things and saving the flight and going with the busing to the shorter distance. Though you won't be taking a bus, I assume.
No, I will not be taking a bus.
I didn't think so. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us. We'll obviously talk during the week, and we'll look forward to having you on the final show of the year as well.
Sounds good.
Very good. Pat Coleman joining us here on Hoopsville. We're going to take a very quick break. Corey Lemons from Cabrini will join us on the other side. You're listening to Hoopsville on Ustream. Thanks to D3Hoops.com. We'll be back, right after this.
Dance floor? Do you confuse state capitals and read too many celebrity gossip magazines? Well, if you answered yes, you may have what it takes to adopt a teen from foster care, because teens don't need perfection, they need you. So if you think an MP3 is a computer virus, it's okay. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. For more information, call 1-888-200-4005 or go to adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
NCAA Women's College Basketball. All day, every day, our game. These women can really play. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. For family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. All day, every day, our game. NCAA Women's College Basketball.
Amber Alert, adopted child, African American girl, 6 years old. Suspect wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued, you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberAlerts.org. Think of it, something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody.
wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Who are you?
What are your team colors?
Who can make you cheer?
Who can bring your family and friends together?
And play your fight song?
Who can bring you to your feet?
Or bring you to your knees?
When the game is on the line, who do you want to take the last shot?
And who do you want to slap high fives, jump up and down, and yell at the top of your lungs with?
There's probably a game near you today. NCAA basketball. Who's your team?
So, EJ, we've designed you a signature shoe worthy of a 3-time All-American with mad smarts and sick leadership skills. Ta-da!
There are over 380,000 NCAA student athletes.
Yeah, you got your GPA and bumps, right?
I love it. And just about all of them will be going pro in something other than sports.
Can I get it in a loafer for casual Fridays?
Yes. Yes.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Chris Tarr doing the heavy lifting, and we have already promised him in the final show of the year he will have 2 School of the Weeks. That is his reward for his hard work. He's going to have to find 10 questions, 5 about each school. Here's hoping both Illinois Wesleyan teams do not win, because that will make it very difficult on Chris to find 10 questions about Illinois Wesleyan. But whoever the champions are, they'll be joining us on Hoopsville, and we'll get Chris to ask them 5 questions for our City of Salem School of the Week. In the meantime, if you have any questions for us, email us at hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can IM us at hoopsville2000 on your AOL IM. Join us on the chat room if you happen to be watching us on Ustream, and I know a number of you are, and we certainly appreciate that. If you are not in there, and or you are there and a guest, you can register and ask us questions. MIT gives a good point. I mentioned Hollingsworth. Tashman, another very good player at MIT, who had a very good game, I thought, against Staten Island, but you're right, struggled a little bit against F&M, but it wasn't a factor. But Tashman is a good player for MIT when talking about the matchup with Whitewater. Thank you for that reminder. I think because he wasn't a factor against F&M, I had not gone and thought about him. So we'll see how that all matches up. Again, anybody who was wondering, I am not giving my predictions on the men's side for the Final Four and championship, strictly because since I will, as Pat Coleman has broken the news, will be broadcasting the games. I do not want anybody thinking I have a favorite or I have a horse in the race or I want a particular team to win. Obviously, I want everybody to win, and I'm not going to predict winners as a result. And don't forget, there's also the All-Star Game. Looking forward to that as well. Certainly going to be fun. That has turned into a great event in Salem. So if you are going to Salem, please, or thinking about it, please make a point to do it. These student athletes deserve your support. The All-Star Game is a wonderful event to go to. So even if your team, I'm going to say this now, even if your team lost on Friday night and you're still around on Saturday, go to the All-Star Game. It's worth it. The championship game will be worth it. If you have a team who's in the championship, go to the All-Star Game. It is a great tune-up for that championship game. It is well worth it. Salem does a terrific job, and I'm hoping the women's side kind of goes this route too. They still have the consolation game, which I have actually been a fan of, but this All-Star Game has changed my mind rather quickly. So that's that spiel. I'll have a little bit more coming up. In the meantime, let's waste a little less time because I know Corey Lemons from Cabrini joins us on the Hoopsville hotline, and I appreciate him taking time out of his busy night to do that. Corey, welcome to Hoopsville.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I certainly appreciate you joining us. As I mentioned, number 5, Cabrini, should mention, walking to their first ever Final Four along with MIT. I know the Cavaliers program has come a long way since back in the day during its heyday, but they've never been to the Final Four. It's got to be special, especially in your senior year, to be able to do this for this program.
Yeah, it feels good. We have a good group of guys and good coaches, and we're going to go to Salem and see if we can get it done.
You guys had an interesting road, if I do say so myself, when you look at the bracket. You start off at home, and you beat Castleton State rather easily, 104-87, in probably a higher scoring game than even I anticipated. You then take on Hobart, which you guys have to, if I remember correctly, had to come from behind and then win that one in overtime by a scant 2 points. Talk about that first weekend from your point of view. You certainly had two very opposite games.
Yeah, the first game versus Castleton State was more up and down. They wanted to get up and run. That's more of our style, so we can play that type of game. And then the next night was Hobart. They wanted to get it down inside, which was a tougher game for us. But like you said, we got out of there by the skin of our teeth by 2 points.
Yeah. By the way, the score was surprising to me because I figured a little bit on your defensive end. I know you guys are tough, would slow Castleton down, but certainly winning 104-87, it doesn't matter what the score is. You win is a win. You get past Hobart, as we mentioned. You then get sent up to Middlebury, which I know being the one in the regional ranks, at least the last ones we saw, I know you guys probably were disappointed in, but you still go up to Vermont. And I would argue Scranton probably did the dirty work for you. You get past Eastern Connecticut in a well-fought game, 72-65. But tell me, honestly, was there any relief that you weren't taking on Middlebury in the next one?
I wouldn't say relief. Like, we didn't really have a preference who won the game. Whoever won, we was going to be prepared for. Our coach was going to have us prepared.
Sure. But talk about the Eastern Connecticut game quickly. That certainly seemed like a really good battle. How did they match up with you? How did you guys match up with them? What was the end result?
Oh, yeah, they matched up well with us. And they went big for a while, and we went small, and that gave us our quickness to get to the hole on them a little bit. But it was a great game. They got real good players.
What was your game plan going into that? What would you guys knew you had to do to get the victory?
Oh, rebound the basketball. I think that's ours on every end of every game because we're smaller than most teams.
When it came to the next one in Scranton, a team that had made a heck of a run to the Elite Eight, many people probably thought they'd have trouble getting past Messiah, and they did have trouble, but then they get past Becker rather easily and then defeat the home team Middlebury in probably a victory I know I didn't see coming. Just seeing a Scranton team like that winning has got to put a little bit of thought in your mind of, you know what, they can beat anybody. Let's not it be us.
Oh, yeah. On any night in the March Madness, anybody can beat anybody. And we sat and watched the game. They played a great game, though, versus Middlesbrough up there. They played mistake-free.
Obviously, the Scranton game had a heck of a finish. Middlebury goes down there, ties the game with just a few seconds left. Scranton then goes down the court and hits a game winner at the buzzer. I assume you were watching the game or at least saw the highlight. What was your thought when you saw that thing go in?
Oh, that was a big shot for him. He came down, he shot it behind his player and two defenders.
Yeah.
It was a big shot.
Are you surprised a team like that didn't call timeout?
Yes, I thought they was to set it up, but you got it in one of your guards' hands. That's a good player. I mean, you let him make decisions, and he made a good play.
So you see them beat Middlebury on a heck of a buzzer beater. You then move on. I should ask, and Pat Coleman has a good way of asking this. If you're in that situation, 7 seconds on the clock, made basket, do you want your Coach Kahn calling timeout, or would you rather it be in your hands and Michael Jordan-esque go down the court and just get it done?
Yeah, I think if it's in my hands, I think my coach wouldn't call timeout, and I don't want him to neither. If it's in my hands, I'll let it go.
So you think if it gets in your hands, Coach Kahn's not calling timeout, he's trusting you?
Yes.
And if it's not in your hands, he's calling timeout because he's got to get it in your hands?
Exactly.
Well, that makes some sense from a player's point of view. You then take on Scranton in that next game, and You know, it looked like a tight one early, and then it just looked like you guys kind of just blew the socks off of Scranton. Was it a matter of you were the better team? Was it a matter that Scranton just looked winded and tired? What was the factor there that turned what looked like in the first half a pretty good game into a 20-point win?
I would say, like I said, they played a very hard-fought game versus Middlesbury. I think Middlesbury wore them down for us. And like you said, I think they got tired. Like, because they fought hard. Like, it was a good game. They cut it to 2 at one point, but I think they were just tired. They were just fought down from the night before.
Obviously, 2 Mid-Atlantic teams playing up in Middlebury. I did not see video. I was busy at Franklin and Marshall myself. What was the crowd like for the weekend?
Oh, it was a good environment to play in. The crowd was a nice crowd, a nice environment. I liked it.
Did you guys have a lot of fans show up?
Yeah, we had enough. Yeah, we had enough.
Had enough, meaning you had fans there, and that was good enough, right?
Yeah.
Was it somewhat quiet though? You know, Middlebury loses on Friday night. They don't have the home team there for Saturday. Was it quiet on Saturday? Was it a little bit surreal in that sense?
Oh yeah, it was definitely way more quieter than it was on Friday night.
You know, obviously way up in Vermont. Your takes on the lovely state of Vermont? Did you get a chance to see much of it?
Nah, we didn't get to see much. We got practice. We just practiced. Got back to the hotel. Got sleep. Went back for a game. Same thing next day.
Obviously, you're now on to the first Final Four in Cabrini history. I can imagine your phone is probably blowing up if it's like any of the other student athletes I ran into this weekend. You're probably getting plenty of messages, plenty of congratulations, plenty of support. What's been the wildest support or the craziest text that you just didn't expect coming that you either got yourself or maybe the team has gotten from an alum or somebody?
Not really nothing crazy. Just everybody congratulating us and saying good luck going to the Final Four and all that. Nothing really crazy.
Well, I mean, anybody off the wall, anybody you never expected you would get a message from. Put it that way.
Maybe your ex-girlfriend.
Oh, well, that's nice. She's paying attention now. She wants you to know that she's noticed. That's very nice. That doesn't add to the pressure. So you're heading to Salem. Obviously, you'll be heading down there relatively soon. You'll be taking on Illinois Wesleyan. What have you learned as a player about the Titans? Obviously, you have not seen video, but I'm sure you've tried to do something or done some work, or the coaches have told you something as you start to prepare.
Nah, not yet. We start preparing tomorrow. We got practice at 6 o'clock. Coach will let us know what's going on there.
So, in other words, you're taking the day off. That's not a bad idea.
What?
Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, the coaches do all that. It's not my job to scout for the teams. Coach does that and does a good job for preparing us. I just play.
Tell people a little bit about yourself. There's a lot of people who talk about you, who have seen you play or have seen you on video or look at your stat line and go, you know, this guy's pretty good, or who is this guy, or what are his tangibles, intangibles, etc. If you were to try and sell yourself, or at least give everybody an idea of who you are as a basketball player, what would you tell them?
Very quick point guard, very unselfish, but can score the basketball also. And I think my leadership is the best quality.
And what do you mean by that? You mean in the sense that you lead by example? Do you mean you show the team the way? How do you mean?
Lead by example, and I know how to get my players going. You got to approach every player differently. You can't go up to all of them and approach them the same way.
And clearly you have a lot of players on this team. You lead the team at 17, nearly 18 points a game, 6.2 rebounds, 53 steals with 196 assists. You point out ways of getting your teammates involved. Jeremy Knowles, John Boyd, Fran Rafferty, A.J. Williams, all guys who have certainly contributed quite a bit to this team. Goran Dulak. Certainly you have gotten a lot of contributions from those guys. If you were to tell people what are your biggest strengths, what would they be as a team?
As a team, I think our biggest strength is push the ball in transition.
Go ahead.
I think playing against other teams, like I said, most teams are bigger than us, so we try to use our speed as an advantage.
Well, and speaking of that, obviously Illinois Wesleyan has some size inside. How do you use it as an advantage? Do you use it on both ends of the court?
Exactly. You put defense, you put pressure on them. If they're bigger, you try to put a smaller player on to pressure them. Then when we got to rebound the ball first. When we rebound it, we use our speed and advantage to push an offense in.
Very good. Corey Lemons here from Cabrini as they make their first trip to the NCAA Final Four in Salem, Virginia in program history, and certainly impressive. Business Administration senior out of Wilmington, Delaware. You've certainly gotten plenty of honors for your career and how well you play. I'm assuming the usual standard, if you win a national title, the honors don't mean anything.
No, none at all.
What are you planning to do after college?
I'm not graduating. I'm probably trying to play overseas.
Are you? Do you already have an idea where you want to go?
Yeah, probably Germany.
Very nice. Very good basketball played in Germany. Have you already had some suitors?
Yes.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. You guys have won 21 straight. You're 30-1 overall. If you look back at your season, your last and only loss came to center 69-67 at the end of December, a tournament in Danville, Kentucky. A lot of people have kind of knocked the CSAC a little bit as being a weak conference. So if you were to try and dispel that, obviously you're in the Final Four, but if you were to dispel the fact that the conference may be weak or we don't know how to read into you guys as a team, what would you say? What would you tell the detractors?
I mean, everybody says our conference is weak, but you still got to go out and go play the game. Like, conference can be weak all you want, but you still got to go out and win games.
And who is the unsung hero on this team?
Right now, it'd be Aaron Wharton-Moss.
And why?
He's a walking double-double. Like, every night he's a double-double. I think he's on his 6th straight double-double or 5 straight.
A walking double-double. I'm going to write that one down. I like that one. Do you know how the fan support will be in Salem yet? Has anybody told you they're making plans?
Oh, yeah, I think we'll have more people than what we just had in Vermont, though. I think it'll be a lot more.
Well, that's good. I think you guys deserve it. Do you know if the school's making any plans yet to help students get to the games?
Yeah, I think we're taking fan buses up.
Very good. Very good. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time to join us. Certainly impressive that you guys are at this point in the season. I know a lot of people had some high hopes, but I don't know if they had these high hopes. And I know you've got some alumni that are certainly proud, and you guys have helped bring Cabrini back to the forefront, and especially yourself in the Mid-Atlantic, and I want to congratulate you on that and congratulate your team on going to the first ever Final Four, et cetera, et cetera. And as always, we give the guest the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be listening tonight?
Thanks for having me on here, and we'll see you all in Salem.
Very good. I will see you in Salem. Good luck. Have a safe trip, and we'll look forward to seeing you play that first game against Illinois Wesleyan.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, take care. Corey Lemons joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. We're a little bit in overtime here. We got to wrap it up. I don't have much of a voice left, yet I never called any games this weekend. You figure that one out, and I got to save it for this weekend. But if just a couple thoughts. Again, if you got a chance, if you live near Salem or near Holland, or for that matter, feel like making a trip and going to a championship game, the championship weekend, these are worth it, even if your team's not in it. If your team is in it, make the effort possible. I know one guy paid $850 to get himself to Salem this weekend to see his team play. It is worth it. Salem does a great job. Holland does a great job. They are great atmospheres to see basketball games in, and this is true student-athletes playing. It's funny how many people are tweeting about how everyone is complaining or talking about, I'm thinking about 5 or 6 different thoughts here. Talking about how the D1 tournament and selections in that, that's a moneymaker. This is about the true student athlete. And these guys are really going to go out there and have a chance to play for something bigger than just their academics. But it's their academics, or in Corey's case, maybe some semi-pro or pro ball overseas that is their future. That's it. Come Saturday or Sunday, a lot of players' seasons and careers are over. Their careers are over, and they've got to lean on something else. So this is a really important weekend for these schools, and I want to congratulate all 8 teams, really 7 schools and 8 teams who have made it to the Final Four. Again, we will not be on the air on Thursday night. We'll be back on the air Sunday or Monday. I suspect Monday after the championship weekend. We will talk to coaches and so on and so forth. Excuse me, contacts, love them. And we will talk to coaches, et cetera, about who won. Chris will have to do some work because you're going to have to come up with 2 different sets of School of the Week questions.
10 questions. I'm pumped for that, Dave.
10. And hopefully we'll get a perfect 5 for 5, but I do not suggest you make them easy.
Don't worry about that. I will not
so.
dumb it down for anyone. They'll be tough as always. looking forward to going out on the bang.
Very good. And Chris will do his hard work. Again, I suspect it'll be Monday. Stay tuned to us on Twitter, at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, or on Facebook.com/Hoops for updates as to when we will exactly be on the air. But again, I suspect we will be on the air next Monday to wrap up the season that was. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight, all of our guests, and of course all you who are listening in. Certainly appreciate your support, and we will sign off at that point. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Enjoy the Final Fours, everybody. This is a great time of basketball and a great opportunity to see those games. They will be streamed live. We will be part of that. And, of course, D3 Hoops will be providing extended coverage as well from the group of us. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in a little over a week back here on Hoopsville. In the meantime, make yourselves known in Salem and Holland. If you see Pat Coleman, or Pat Coleman himself in Holland, if you see Gordon Mann or myself in Salem, please do not be a stranger. Come up and say hi. We love putting faces to names and getting to know the people who follow us on D3Hoops.com and know what we do. We want to know who's enjoying that, I should say. And we want to put faces to name, especially posters on the boards, etc. So please do not be a stranger. Forgive us if we are busy, but we want to see you there, especially coaches and fans especially. Thanks so much for joining us. We will sign off. Have a good night, and we'll see you in Salem and in Holland, if not a week from tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.